Hello and welcome back to our series on audition stories. Today we're speaking to Mel La Barrie. Mel is an experienced and well-loved UK theatre actress. She's worked in musicals such as Les Miserables, the original cast of Matilda, the original cast of Mary Poppins, Ragtime, Wicked, Guys and Dolls, TV programmes such as EastEnders and Casualty, and she's also in the film of London Road. And she's currently performing in the West End musical and Juliet. Mel, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed for us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to help.
We always start these interviews by asking people where they trained, what drama schools they auditioned for. I believe yours is a slightly different story.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that decided to walk into theatre out of interest and being very bold. I came into theatre through an open audition back in Trinidad. There was a play that was going on. I didn't have any training whatsoever. I was a performer, so I used to be a singer. I used to sing calypso, which is our kind of national music in Trinidad and Tobago. But I had done no theatre training. I decided to go to an open audition. And I went, and there was this very fabulous part, and I wanted to be seen for that part, and that was the part that I wanted, and she was very glamorous and all of that. They asked me to come back and read for this part, which was the mother. I was in my 20s, I was like 24 years old or something like that. And I read for this part, I think it was 23. And I read for this part of a 40-something-year-old woman. And that was the part that I ended up getting, not the glamorous woman. And and subsequently, that's all I ever played. Since I was 23, I've only ever played like women in the 40s now. And so now that I'm in my 40s, that's what I get to play. But yes, so no training for me, but I had to learn a lot as we went on.
And how were the other actors with you on the job? Were they accepting of you not having any training? Did you feel like you had to prove yourself at all?
Well, it was an extraordinary piece because there were a lot of young people in it. It was a lot of us kind of working really hard to hone our craft, even though the younger boys, they had more experience with it because they came through the drama training that we had in Trinidad. The older actors and the actors that had a lot of experience, I think some of them kind of left me alone and kind of let me get on with it. Some of them maybe thought that I was a little bit uppity, trying to come into a genre that wasn't my own. Some of them were very patient because I had to learn. It was... I was playing something that was so outside of my experience. I wasn't a mother at 23. I didn't know the things that you do to kind of, if there were things that you could do to be this older woman. So I was pretending a lot. There was a lot of pretending. There was a lot of gurning. I was very fortunate because attached to that project was a British director and producer. He wasn't directing the show, but he was there. He was then subsequently responsible for bringing the show to London. But he was there, Paul Everett. He's very dear to me. He was in Trinidad through the whole process of us rehearsing this play, and he locked me in a room one time and said, "We're not leaving this until we crack this." It was a very intensive few hours of study about what it meant to tell the truth from where you are through the lens of somebody that you are not, which is all acting is really. It's about using what you know, using your own experiences, using your own emotional well, your own resources, the things that you think, the things that you feel, your physical sensations, using all of that to use as the voice of a person that you are not. He taught me that. It was hard. It was so hard. I was in tears, But because I decided to audition, I decided to be brave and audition for this show, I committed to doing the work. You have to learn that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to come easily for you. Some things will, but you have to commit to how hard it will be.
Was that the reason you came to London? You said that show transferred to London afterwards.
The Barbican, I don't know if they still do it anymore, but they used to have something called the Barbican International Theatre Event, the Bite Festival. And they would invite plays, people to bring plays from all over the world. And we were invited in 2000 to bring Clearwater, which was the name of the play, written by Christopher Rodriguez, who works here now. I think he works with Tallowa Theatre. But we had to only bring, I think it was 12 actors in the whole show, and we had to only bring 6 of the Trinidadian actors, and then 6 of the actors would be from here. And so it was a kind of exchange of ideas. So we all had to audition for our parts again. And some of the actors were auditioning for wanted to change parts and coming to audition for my parts and all that. And I was like, so that was tough. Could you imagine, having to then re-audition for the thing that you've created?
Yeah, it'd be horrid. You think everything you've invested is going to be like, thank you for that. We think somebody can play you better than you.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was like. And it was a brand new director from London. And I had to go and prove to him. I thought I'd done the hard work, and the hard work was just starting. Luckily, me and my then husband, we were both in the play, and we were both chosen to come here. So I originally came here for 3 months just to do that play. I had no intentions of staying.
How long have you been here now?
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. I came with one bag, one suitcase, and we had a house back in Trinidad, and we had 5 dogs, and we had a whole life. I worked in radio station, and I had a singing career and an acting career. I had a whole really thriving, I developed quite a thriving acting career by then in Trinidad. So, I wasn't devoid of work.
Made you kind of go, no, I'm going to give up my successful life in Trinidad and come to London.
Oh, I had been in London 2 years prior during the carnival season, singing Calypso again at the Notting Hill Calypso tent. And that's when I fell in love with London. I fell in love with London in 1998 when I came. And I always knew it was kind of like my spiritual home. When we came in 2000, I was then asked to do another play. So I was offered more work. We kind of snowballed from then. When I was doing the second play, I got offered representation. Sometimes one opportunity leads to another. My entire career has been about that. Every job that I've done has been attached to in some way to something or some person that I've spoken with or created with previously. It's important to just be aware and be open for your opportunities. I think if I just come for the 3 months and didn't get to know the directors, didn't get to speak with people and ask a lot of questions. I asked so many questions. And it's the same with training. You always want to have a really open spirit, because you never know what this thing that you're doing now will lead to.
Yeah, I think you're being very humble as well, saying one thing led to the next by chance. I'm lucky enough to have worked with you a few times, and you're literally one of the nicest company members I've ever worked with. You say you've been playing the mother for years, but you're always the mother of the company. You're always the one that brings everybody in. If somebody's having a bad day, you pick them up. You're such a brilliant person to have around, and I think anyone who's ever worked with you would say the same thing.
Oh, bless you. Well, maybe that's what my first director saw. There was a maternal spirit in me, even at 23.
When you started auditioning here from Trinidad, did you see a big difference in the way people audition, the process of audition, the cultural differences in the audition? Is it different? Is it the same?
I think after that first audition, I never auditioned for anything again in Trinidad. I don't know how I managed to get in, but I managed to get in by serendipity, really. Every play that I subsequently did, I was just asked to do. So when I came here, I had to learn how to audition. And it was bad to begin with. I don't even know. You see, because even after doing the first play, I was asked to do another play. So even then, that was just like Trinidad. I was like, yeah, I get asked to do a play. And then I get an agent and they start sending me up for stuff. And so I think the first set of auditions I went for in this country was Lion King and Kiss Me Kate. Did not get either because it was just so bad. And there I was singing, and I'm telling you, I'm not going from Dreamgirls for everything. After a while, that just became my audition song because I so it was so good, and I was just so bad mind that I was like, I can make this fit any audition. Lend me a tenner, absolutely, I'm going in with that. So, yeah, don't be like Melanie La Barrie. I have an audition folder ready. I used to sing and I'm telling you I'm not going because it was a difficult song. When it went well, it went really well. And when it went badly, it went so badly that it was just like, you must never sing again. This is not for you. Singing is not for you. You must never ever sing another note. And I have so many audition stories that if people hear it, they will never understand how I get work. My friend James Tracy, who is a musical supervisor of Wicked, he says to me all the time that I did the worst audition for Wicked that he had ever seen in his entire life. You can prepare something as well as you can. You can spend 2 weeks making an assumption about what the material is supposed to sound like. You have to be prepared to put that all aside when you go into an audition room, because the panel or the director on that day could decide that he wants a completely different idea. And so you have to be ready to say, okay, I've spent 2 weeks making this. Now I'm going to throw that in a bin. I'm going to do exactly what this man wants. I had a really long session in my Wicked audition, and I was directed, and we changed things, and they filmed it so they could see the progress from beginning to end, how I started and where I ended, because I was able to listen, absorb, and change at a moment's notice. I love auditioning. I really do, because I don't take myself that seriously, you see. I remember one time I went into an audition room and it was a song I knew really well. And I sang the first verse, and then the second verse came along and I sang all the lyrics to the first verse. And then the middle eight came along and I sang all the lyrics for the first verse again in the middle eight. Just like, like making it fit. And then the last verse came along and I sang the first verse. I literally sang the same 4 lines of lyrics or 8 lines of lyrics at that panel 4 or 5 times. I felt incredible shame. But they gave me a recall. Sometimes you make mistakes. And if you have good humor about who you are and you don't take yourself that seriously, don't take them too seriously, because the worst they could do is say no. They can't make life horrible for you. They could just say no. And that's it.
Mel, what advice would you give to any kind of young actor starting out now?
Don't look in too much. I always say, when people ask me this, I always say, observe everything. Look around you, because that is how you collect your material. It's how you collect your inspiration. It's how you collect physicalities. You collect characters. You collect world experiences by looking around, by asking questions, by kind of experiencing the world as an active, observing member.
People watching was the old classic for actors, isn't it? Sit in cafes and just watching people.
Yeah, and we use our front cameras a little bit too much. I would charge everybody and kind of like challenge everybody to turn their phones outward, to use the other lens of your camera and try to capture the world rather than you in the world. You know what you're like in the world. I'm not saying never take a selfie again. I'm just saying try your best to use the tools that you have to document the world as it is around you, the things that you see rather than you in it.
In terms of using your own accent, putting on an accent, have you noticed a difference in kind of change in the last few years?
Almost every West End job that I've done has been in my own accent. I think the only one was Les Mis, and even that, because I can't do accents, and I have a terrible Cockney accent, so even that was kind of like Cockney Caribbean. Luckily it was sung through, so it was fine. But yeah, every West End job I've done, and Juliet I do in my own accent, Matilda I've done in my own accent, Mary Poppins I've done in my own accent, Daddy Cool, same thing. Of course, there are the great American musicals, so we gotta have, again, more things in our toolbox to be able to use if we want to have that kind of work in our repertoire.
Theatre's changed in the last 5-10 years.
And the world has changed as well. I mean, in my little family here, there's me with a Trinidadian accent and my fellow who's from Leeds. So, the world has changed. Things are not the same. And if we had children, I imagine because we live in London, they would have very London accents. Life has changed. Also, especially in television as well, people, they want to see a slice of life. Like when you go to see a piece of theatre now and it's a non-diverse cast, it could even kind of jar you a little bit because you're like, this doesn't represent the world that I know. So if you are a creator of work, because some of you all will be, you are in charge of representing the vast world that you are a part of. Of course, do the work to learn your accents. But as I said earlier, there is merit in being unapologetically you. Yes, you might be the second blonde girl in the audition, or you might be the other tall guy, but there is nobody who is exactly like you. And sometimes the way that you speak is a very important indicator of that.
So Mel, we always end these interviews with this question. If you could see or hear the audition story of any actor in the world, who would it be?
Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is, of course, no longer with us, but he's who I wanted to be. I wanted to kind of have that the way of making unrecognizable characters, that making something where you disappeared. Gary Oldman is like that as well. They make characters where the person who you are is no longer present. I'd love to see casting tapes or him in theatre, hear audition stories from that particular person, because I have a feeling, he was one of those people who lived unapologetically as well. So, yeah, that's my guy.
Good choice. Mel, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that it's useful in some way to someone.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you loved it, please hit the subscribe button. If there's any actors that you would like to hear the audition stories of, please leave it in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.